Good evening, dear listeners of the Stories for Sleep channel. I am pleased to welcome you to this cozy corner, where history preserves its secrets under the cover of darkness, inviting you to relax and reconnect with a bygone era. Today we embark on a grand journey through time and space, dedicated to the 7 wonders of the ancient world and the 7 new wonders of modernity. These are the creations of human hands, from the last pyramids standing for millennia in the face of a pandemic, to shining monuments. They inspire millions today, telling us about the genius of builders, the secrets of civilizations, and the eternal thirst for creating an immortal being. The lecture is designed for 2 hours of relaxed narration so you can settle in. Close your eyes and let the words carry you away as you dream, bringing to life ruins and domes, gardens and statues in your mind's eye. We are pregnant with every meticulously described wonder, from its origins and creation, through the myths and legends commonly held in our culture, to the latest scientific discoveries. Imagine the warm desert breeze brushing your face, and the rustling leaves in the hanging gardens lulling you like a lullaby. Make yourself comfortable, turn off the lights, and let's begin this magical journey through the wonders of the world. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the largest surviving wonder of the ancient world, stands on the banks of a plateau on the West Nile, near modern-day Cairo. It's part of a complex that includes 2 other large pyramids, Khafre and Mycerinus, as well as the Sphinx and numerous smaller structures. This is part of the Memphis necropolis, inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1979 under the title Memphis and its necropolis Pyramid Fields, from Giza to Dahshur. The pyramid was built during the Old Kingdom of Egypt, more specifically during the 4th dynasty, approximately between 2580 and 2560 BC. It was intended as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu, the 2nd ruler of this dynasty, known to the Greeks as Cheops. Khufu reigned for approximately 23 to 26 years, and his reign marked the heyday of Egyptian civilization, when pharaohs were considered elevated gods and pyramids were considered stairways to eternal life in the afterlife. Why a pyramid? In Egyptian religion, the pyramid's shape symbolized the rays of the sun descending to earth, or the primordial Benben Hill, from which the world arose. It was part of the love of the funerary complex. Nearby was a temple for worship, a valley temple or unula, for mummification rituals, and a long causeway connecting them. The pyramid was not isolated. Surrounding it were mastabas, flat tombs for nobles, including Khufu's mother, Hotfirs, whose burial was discovered in 1925 in a pit near the pyramids. There was furniture, jewelry, and even an empty sarcophagus, suggesting the possibility of burials being moved from the underworld. Now about the size. It's astonishing even today. The pyramid originally reached a height of 146.6 meters, taller than many medieval European cathedrals, and supported the world's tallest structure for over 3,800 years until the construction of Lincoln Cathedral in England around 1300 AD. Currently, due to erosion and loss of the lining, its height is approximately 138.5 meters. Its base is square on a side measuring 230.3 meters, covering an area of over 5 hectares, equivalent to 10 football fields. Its total volume is approximately 2.6 million cubic meters, and its weight is approximately 6 million tons. It consists of approximately 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons, although some granite blocks in the King's Chamber weigh as much as 80 tons. If the pyramid were dismantled and laid out side by side, the blocks would stretch 2/3 the length of the Earth's equator, approximately 25,000 kilometers. The materials used were sourced from various locations. The main stone is nummulitic limestone from local quarries on the Giza Plateau, which contains fossils of marine organisms, a reminder that this area was once a seabed. For the exterior cladding, white limestone from the banks of the Tura River was used. On the other side of the Nile, it was polished to a high shine. Thus, the pyramid shone in the sun like a giant crystal, visible for many kilometers. The granite for the inner chamber and sarcophagus was transported from Oswana, more than 900 kilometers up the Nile. The transportation of such blocks is a mystery in itself. They were likely floated on barges during Nile floods, then hauled on wooden sleds using water to liquefy the sand. Pyramid construction represents the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian engineering. According to the ancient Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt in the 5th century AD, its construction took 20 years and required the labor of 100,000 people. However, modern archaeologists, based on excavations, have adjusted this figure. There were approximately 20,000 permanent workers and up to 40,000 during peak seasons. These weren't slaves, as previously thought, but skilled artisans and farmers who worked during the Nile floods, when the fields were inundated. This is evidenced by finds in a city near Giza. There were bakeries, breweries, hospitals, and even a cemetery with tombs adorned with the names of teams, such as Friends of Khufu or Drunkards of Mungher. In 2013, Morera's diary, the Wadi al-Jarf papyrus, dating to the 27th year of Khufu's reign, was discovered. It describes the transport of limestone from Tura to Borja, under the supervision of an official of Merera. This confirms organized logistics. The stone was delivered in 4 days, and the workers paid for bread, beer, and meat. How exactly was it built? Theories vary. The main one is the use of ramps, straight, zigzagging along the sides, or spiraling around the pyramids. In 2018, the main reason for the ramps, with ladders and posts for ropes that rotated the lifting blocks at a 20-degree angle, was discovered in the Hat Nub quarry. Other ideas include levers, rollers, and even water. Perhaps the molds around the pyramids allowed for materials to be transported. The blocks were cut with copper saws and abrasive sand, and water and sand were used for grinding for precise fit. The pyramid is aligned with the cardinal direction, with a bright distance. The deviation is only 3 minutes 38 seconds of arcade, possibly due to astronomical research from a gnome or a star such as the North Pole. The pyramid's internal structure resembles a labyrinth of secrets. The entrance is on the north side, at a height of 18 meters, and leads to a lower corridor, 105 meters long, carved into the rock at an angle of 26 degrees. Then, an ascending corridor leads to the Grand Gallery. This impressive sloping hall, 47 meters long, 2 meters wide, and 8.6 meters high, tapers toward the ceiling. From there, in the King's Chamber, a 10.5 by 5.2 meter room lined with red granite, containing a sarcophagus of the same material, but empty. Khufu's mummy was never found, possibly stolen in antiquity. Above the switch are 5 relief chambers designed to distribute the weight and prevent damage. Inscriptions bearing Khufu's name were found in them, confirming his authorship. Below is the Queen's Chamber, measuring 5.7 by 5.2 meters, with a niche for statues and 2 shafts slanting upward. These shafts, discovered in 1872, were originally used for ventilation but are now used for rituals. They were aligned with stars such as Sirius, the goddess Isis, and Orion's belt, the goddess Osiris, helping the pharaoh's soul ascend. There's also an underground chamber, carved into the rock, covering an area of 30 meters, but it's illegal. Perhaps the original plan was changed. Between the levels, a well or shaft connecting the gallery to the underground corridor is said to have been used by these robbers. In 1954, Khufu's solar barge was discovered. A 43-meter-long wooden vessel made of cedar, dismantled into 1,224 pieces, shaped like the southern pyramids. It symbolized the pharaoh's journey through the afterlife and is now on display in the Egyptian Museum in the UK. A second barge was discovered in 1987, but it has not yet been fully preserved. Myths and legends surround the pyramid in a thick fog. The ancient Greeks, in the modern world, employed slaves, but excavations have disproved this. The workers were free and took pride in their labor. Some esoteric works are presented in the dimensions of encoded knowledge. The ratio of the base perimeter to the height is expected to be 2 pi. The proportions correspond to the golden ratio, although scholars debate whether this is a coincidence. There are theories about the pyramid serving as an observatory or energy device, but they have not been confirmed. Arab legends from the 12th century speak of treasures within, including mummies and star maps, but during the Caliph al-Ma'mun's reign in the 9th century, when a tunnel was dug, only an empty sarcophagus was found. Modern research is revealing new mysteries. The Scan Pyramids project, launched in 2015, uses Mayan tomography, cosmic rays that penetrate stone, to image the pyramid without destroying it. In 2017, a large void was discovered above the Grand Gallery. The quarter cavity is at least 30 meters long and 8 meters long, possibly another chamber or a loading structure. In 2023, hidden corridors were discovered on the north side. A 9-meter-long horizontal tunnel with a chevron ceiling, possibly intended to reduce height or conceal something larger. Research revealed that it was blocked and that there may be more space beyond. And in 2025, the discovery shocked the world. Radar and synthetic aperture radar (SAR), using satellites and seismic vibrations, have discovered a vast underground complex beneath the Giza Plateau. A team from Italy and Scotland, including Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi, announced the discovery of structures in Europe at an altitude of 600 meters, twice the height of the Eiffel Tower, extending up to 2 kilometers. These are vertical, circular shafts located approximately 640 meters deep, surrounded by 8 spiral paths leading to enveloping cubic structures, 76 meters apart, and a multi-level building connected by passages. The cylinders are located beneath each of the 3 pyramids, possibly serving as entrances. Some sources describe this as an underground city with symmetrical architecture, but this is disputed. Egyptian officials, including Zahi Hawass, dismissed the findings as unreviewed and exaggerated, noting the limitations of radar in such an area. Other evidence for this includes lost branches of the Nile, along which the pyramids were built, or even the earliest known energy system. Research continues, but determining the exact location of excavations is difficult. The study of pyramids and their cultural significance is vast. It inspired Napoleon in 1798. Soldiers 40 years old, looked at you. It has appeared in films at an altitude of 600 meters, twice the height of the Eiffel Tower, extending up to 2 kilometers. These are vertical, circular shafts located approximately 640 meters deep, surrounded by 8 spiral paths leading to enveloping cubic structures, 76 meters apart, and a multi-level building connected by passages. The cylinders are located beneath each of the 3 pyramids, possibly serving as entrances. Some sources describe this as an underground city with symmetrical architecture, but this is disputed. Egyptian officials, including Zahi Hawass, dismissed the findings as unreviewed and exaggerated, noting the limitations of radar in such an area. Other evidence for this includes lost branches of the Nile, along which the pyramids were built, or even the earliest known energy system. Research continues, but determining the exact location of excavations is difficult. The study of pyramids and their cultural significance is vast. It inspired Napoleon in 1798. Soldiers 40 years old, looked at you. It has appeared in films, Indiana Jones books, and even conspiracy theories. Today, it's Egypt's main tourist attraction, visited by millions, but suffering from erosion and pollution. Archaeologists like Mark Lechner continue excavating the lost urban work site. In 2020, a fragment of cladding in the Oberdino Museum, dated to 3341 to 3094 BC, was lost. It may have been recycled material. The pyramid resembles a human genius. How 4,500 years ago, people created an enduring monument that outlived an empire. The Great Pyramid of Khufu remains not only an engineering triumph of the ancient Egyptians, but also an enduring reminder of a small desire for immortality. Its secrets continue to unravel, inspiring a new generation of scientists and dreamers. This concludes our story about the first wonder of the ancient world and moves on to the next. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the most enigmatic and romantic wonders of the ancient world, are associated with ancient Babylon in Mesopotamia, in what is now Iraq. This wonder dates back to approximately the 6th century BCE, the heyday of the Babylonian Empire, under the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar II, who reigned from 605 to 562 BCE. Nebuchadnezzar, known as the Great Conqueror and Builder, transformed Babylon into one of the most magnificent cities of antiquity, with massive walls, ziggurats, and palaces. According to legend, he created the gardens for his wife, Amytis, a princess of Media, who yearned for the green hills and forests of her mountainous homeland. In dry, dusty Mesopotamia, where both the Euphrates and the Tigris were sources of life, such gardens became a true miracle, an artificial paradise elevated above the earth. The name Hanging Gardens of Babylon is a Greek interpretation. Babylon was the classical Assyrian queen Shemiramad, who reigned in the 9th century BC, but historians believe the Greeks confused her with Amytis or simply attributed the gardens to a more apparent figure. Descriptions of the gardens have come down to us exclusively from Greek and Roman authors, as Babylonian sources are silent about this wonder, which is a mystery in itself. They are first mentioned by the Antipater of Sidon in the 2nd century BC, but detailed accounts are provided by Berossus, a Babylonian priest of the 3rd century BC. Josephus, Flavius Strabo, 10th century AD, Diodorus Siculus, 10th century AD, and Quintus Curzi and Rufus, 10th century AD. All quote the gardens as a multi-tiered, mountain-like structure with terraces rising to a height of 25 meters, roughly equivalent to a 7-story building. Each terrace was supported by vaulted arches and columns made of fired brick, topped with a thick layer of earth, up to 3 to 4 meters deep, to allow the roots of large trees to take root. Imagine the lower level, a wide platform, perhaps 120 by 120 meters, with fountains and ponds fed by water from the Euphrates. Above, smaller terraces were planted with exotic plants: palms, cypresses, fig trees, roses, lilies, and even orchards. The terraces, suspended by plants that hung over the edges, created the illusion of floating in an ethereal forest. To prevent water seepage, the terraces were covered with a layer of bitumen, a natural asphalt mined in Mesopotamia, along with lead plates and reeds, an advanced waterproofing method at the time. The gardens were integrated into the royal palace or even the ziggurat of Timananka, the prototype of the Eastern Tower of Babel, making the entire complex a symbol of the king's divine power. The irrigation system is perhaps the most impressive part. Water from the Euphrates was raised to the upper levels using mechanical devices, Archimedes screws, spiral pumps, chain hoists with buckets, or water wheels powered by slaves, animals, or even wind. Strabo records how the water flowed down steps, cooling the coolness and humidity in the hot climate. The combined waters generated by irrigation could produce thousands of liters per day, a true engineering feat in regions with few impurities and summer temperatures reaching 40 degrees Celsius. Construction, depending on demand, took several years and required thousands of workers, including gardeners from across the empire who brought seeds and seedlings from Persia, India, and even Egypt. Bricks for the terraces were fired in cosmic kilns, and plants were adapted to the local climate. It was a prototype of modern hydroponics. But the main intrigue is, did the gardens actually exist? Archaeological evidence is mixed. German archaeologist Robert Caldeve, during wire excavations in Babylon from 1899 to 1917 under the auspices of Deutsche Orient Hasselschrift, discovered massive walls, the Ishtar Gate with glazed bricks, now in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, and the ruins of President Nebuchadnezzar. He identified a vaulted chamber as the possible foundation of gardens, complete with a water supply system, but no plants were found on the terrace or in the grounds. Later excavations in the 1930s and 1950s by Iraqi archaeologists, as well as post-war research in the 1980s led by Saddam Hussein, who even attempted to reconstruct Babylon, also yielded no direct evidence. From 2003 to 2011, after the invasion of Iraq, teams including UNESCO surveyed the site, but war and looting damaged much of it. Alternative theories favor force. In 2013, British Assyriologist Stephanie Daly of Oxford University argued that the gardens were not in Babylon, but in Nineveh, the capital of Assyria under King Sennacherib, who reigned from 705 to 681 BC. Their arguments were based on Assyrian reliefs of Nineveh, now housed in the British Museum, and picturesque multi-tiered gardens with aqueducts, trees, and even exotic animals. Saint Sennacherib boasted in his inscriptions, "I created gardens like the mountains of Oman and planted all kinds of trees." He constructed a 150-kilometer aqueduct from Jerwin using stone arches predating the Roman era. It is further suggested that the Greeks, who conquered the region under Alexander the Great, confused Nineveh with Babylon and Semiramis with an Assyrian queen. This theory is supported by an analysis of cuneiform tablets. Assyrian texts mention hanging gardens or bithyx, while Babylonian ones do not. Recent research into the components of Intrigue.in 2023, a team from Tel Aviv University and the Iraq Museum used satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar to survey the ruins of Nineveh, near modern-day Masula, and found traces of ancient springs and terraces beneath the soil. They hypothesized that the gardens may extend over 300 hectares, filled with artificial lakes. In 2024, an article in the Journal of Near Eastern Studies suggested that suspended is a mistranslation. The Akkadian word musalu means terraced, not suspended. In early 2025, a study published in the February issue of All About History by Cambridge University researchers, who analyzed new cuneiform tablets from the British Museum dating to the 7th century CE, concluded that the gardens may have been located in Nineveh and were part of the larger botanical complex of Saint Sennacherib. This study, based on 3D modeling and climate analysis, suggests that the rare plant gardens in conquered lands served as propaganda for the empire. However, Egyptologists and Mesopotamians such as Zahi Hawass and Irving Finkel argue that without direct excavations at Masula, where conflicts continue, this remains a hypothesis. If gardens existed in Babylon, their fate was tragic. After the Persian conquest of the city in 539 BC, Cyrus the Great preserved the buildings, but Alexander the Great planned a restoration in 331 BC, which was never completed due to his death. Earthquakes in the 2nd century BC, erosion from the Euphrates, and neglect during the Parthian era could have destroyed them. Diodorus mentions that by the 1st century AD, only ruins remained of the gardens. Alternatively, if in Nineveh, then Ashurbanipal destroyed the city in 612 BC, and the remains are buried under modern-day Mosul. The myths surrounding the gardens are full of poetry. They symbolized Eden, the Garden of Eden, in the hearings, perhaps inspired by them, as Babylon is associated with the president's Babylonian captivity. In Persian tradition, the paradise or enclosed garden evolved from this. The legend of Semiramis as a warrior and builder added a touch of romance. It envisages a 42-year reign, encompassing the conquest of India and Egypt. In medieval Europe, gardens were depicted in miniatures as symbols of luxury, and during the Age of Enlightenment, as examples of ancient engineering. The effect is evident in Louis XIV gardens at Versailles, with their terraces and fountains, or in the modern Supa Tri Grove hanging gardens of Singapore. Films like David Griffith's 1916 film, Intolerance, reconstruct them as grandiose sets, ranging from Byron to modern fantasy. Today, the gardens are the subject of virtual reconstruction. In 2022, a UNESCO project using VR showed what they looked like with 360-degree calendars and the sounds of water. Tourists visit the partially restored ruins of Babylon, But searches continue in Nineveh, where ISIS destroyed artifacts in 2014 and 2017, and restoration is now underway. A new expedition with drones and analysis is planned for 2025 to search for underground structures. The Hanging Gardens teach us how legends intertwine with conventions, and how the human imagination creates timeless wonders, even from myths. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon remain shrouded in mystery, symbolizing the dream of paradise on earth.